Antibes is a Mediterranean resort in the Alpes-Maritimes department of southeastern France, on the Côte d'Azur between Cannes and Nice. The town of Juan-les-Pins is in the commune of Antibes, and the Sophia Antipolis Technology Park is northwest of it. History. Antibes is located on the east side of a neck of land called La Garoupe. It was founded by Phoenicians from Massilia in the 5th century BC. As a Greek colony and Roman settlement, it was known as Antipolis from its position relative to Nice. Rome gradually increased its hold over the Mediterranean coast. In 43 BC, Antipolis was officially incorporated in the propraetorial province of Narbonese in Gaul, in which it remained for the next 500 years. Antipolis grew into the largest town in the region and a main entry point into Gaul. Roman artifacts such as aqueducts, fortified walls, and amphorae can still be seen today. Antipolis became the seat of a bishopric in the 5th century. After the disintegration of the Western Roman Empire, various barbarian tribes seized Antibes. This resulted in destruction in a long period of instability. In the 10th century, Antibes found a protector in Seigneur Rodoat, who built extensive fortified walls around the town and a castle in which to live. For the next 200 years, the town experienced a period of renewal. Prosperity was short-lived, as the whole region fell into disarray for several centuries. The inhabitants of Antibes stayed behind their strong city walls as a succession of wars and epidemics ravaged the countryside. In the 1244, Antibes' bishop moved his see to Grasse. By the end of the 15th century, the region was under the protection and control of King Louis XI of France. Relative stability returned, but the small port of Antibes fell into obscurity. From around the middle of the 19th century, the Antibes area regained its popularity, as wealthy people from around Europe discovered its natural beauty and built luxurious homes here. It was transferred from its former department of Var to the new one of Alpes-Maritimes in 1860. The harbour was again used for a considerable fishing industry, and the area exported dried fruit, salt fish, and oil. By the First World War, it had been connected by rail with Nice, and most of its fortifications had been demolished to make way for new residential districts. In 1926, the old Château Grimaldi in Antibes was bought by the local municipality and later restored for use as a museum. Pablo Picasso came to the town in 1946, having visited his friend and fellow painter Gerald Murphy and his wife Sarah there in 1923, and was invited to stay in the castle. During his 6-month stay, Picasso painted and drew, as well as crafting ceramics and tapestries. When he departed, Picasso left a number of his works to the municipality. The castle has since become the Picasso Museum. Population: 25% of the town's inhabitants are under the age of 25. Climate: Antibes enjoys a Mediterranean climate. Culture: sport is an important part of the local culture. The town hosts the National Training Center for basketball. On the 25th of May 1999, the town was the first in the department to sign the State Environment Charter, which pledges to actively conserve the natural environment. Jazz Festival: Jazz-a-Wan, in July. Sites: beaches: there are 48 beaches along the 25 kilometers of coastline that surround Antibes and Juan-les-Pins. Museums: Archaeology Museum. This museum sits atop the Promenade Amiral de Grasse in the old bastion Saint-André, a 17th-century fortress. The museum's collection focuses on the classical history of Antibes. Many artifacts, sculptures and amphorae found in local digs and shipwrecks from the harbour are displayed here. The views of the sea and mountains from the promenade are also spectacular. Naval Museum of Napoleon, housed in a 17th-century stone fort and tower. This museum presents a collection of Napoleonic memorabilia, paintings and naval models. Several wall paintings show historic moments in Napoleon's reign, and there are also pieces of his clothing, such as one of the hats he once wore. Picasso Museum. This museum houses one of the world's greatest Picasso collections. 24 paintings, 44 drawings, 32 lithographs, 11 oils on paper, 80 pieces of ceramics, 2 sculptures and 5 tapestries. Lartaun Museum. This small museum in the center of town brings the contemporary history of Antibes to life through its exhibit of costumes, tools, photographs and other objects used by the local people. Absinthe Museum. The Absinthe Museum is located in a basement in the Roman foundations of Old Antibes. It is dedicated to the manufacture and appreciation of this green liqueur. Parks and gardens. The Explora Park. The Explora Park is a 5-hectare garden open to the public. Next to the large olive grove, there are different styles of Mediterranean gardens, from ancient Rome to the exuberant Riviera of the 19th century. Fountains and ponds stretch along the terrace, making a waterway 500 meters long. Antibes is renowned for rose production, and rose bushes line the path leading to the sea. The luxuriance of the exotic garden in Palm Grove is reminiscent of the Belle Epoque, when English gardeners succeeded in planting flowers that bloom in winter, the season when the aristocracy visited the Côte d'Azur. In the style of Provençal gardens of the 18th century, there is a maze with sculpted hedges. Further on, Islamic gardens are featured, with an orange grove where the ground is patterned with terracotta irrigation pipes similar to those in the celebrated Seville Cathedral in Spain. The vegetable gardens and orchards in the Arsat are planted in hollows as in Morocco to protect them from the sun and maximize shadow and humidity. A representation of a Moroccan house pays homage to the painter Majorelle, creator of the beautiful Blue Garden in Marrakech. In another area, the Winter Garden contains plants that flower in winter, such as mimosa and camellias. The Eden-Roc Gardens. Villa Eden-Roc was built on a rock in the middle of a virtual desert. The area was transformed into a garden through the patience and talent of Jacques Graber, landscape architect and consultant to the Great Exhibition in New York in 1939. He was commissioned by Mr. Beaumont to create this luxuriant park of 11 hectares. The gardens, with all their luxuriant vegetation, lie 30 meters above the sea with a view across the Bay of the Cap. Planted with traditional Mediterranean species such as marine and parasol pines, Alepan canary pines, cypress, oaks, olive trees, arbutus, lavender, thyme, rosemary, eucalyptus, ficus etc., as well as 3 kilometers of Pittosporum hedges. A whole part of the park has been created with plants found in the Antibes area in 1920. Third Park. In 1857, Gustave III discovered the wonderful, unspoilt Cap d'Antibes and bought 5 hectares of land where he built a villa and began the creation of a park. Bequeathed to the state by his heirs, the Jardin Botanique de la Ville III is now managed by the INRA. The superb collection of trees and exotic plants, and the rich earth provide many opportunities for learning, and the cross-fertilization of plant species that grow on the Mediterranean coast. Marineland. In 1970, Roland de la Poype has created this animal exhibition park in Antibes. First, it was a small oceanarium with a few pools and animals, but now it is one of the biggest in the world and receives more than 1,200,000 visitors per year. It is the only French sea park featuring 2 cetacean species, killer whales and dolphins. Garoupe Lighthouse. The old lighthouse of Antibes provides one of the best views in the region from its lofty hilltop. To get here, you must walk about 1 kilometer up the Chemin de Calvaire from the Plage de la Salas. It makes for a nice half-day stroll. Its current facade was constructed in the 18th century and blends Latin classical symmetry and religious fantasy. The interior houses some impressive pieces such as a Baroque altarpiece and life-sized wooden carving of Christ's death from 1447. Hotel Du Cap-Eden-Roc. This villa, set in a forest at the tip of the Cap d'Antibes Peninsula, recreates a 19th-century chateau. Since 1870, the glamorous white-walled Hotel Du Cap on the French Riviera has been one of the most storied and luxurious resorts in the world. Guests who flocked there included Marlene Dietrich, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor and Winston Churchill. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton conducted an affair and honeymooned there. Ports. There are many yachting harbors which provide moorings for a range of ships ranging from fishing vessels to full-sized yachts. Port Vauban, the largest yachting harbor in Europe, with more than 2,000 moorings, can accommodate craft of more than 100 meters. This old port was the heart of the ancient Greek city of Antipes and has a long and colorful history which includes Ligurians, Romans and Crusaders on their way to the Holy Land. Today, it is the largest marina in Europe, serving both local fishing boats and luxury yachts. Port Gallus, 542 moorings. Port de la Salis, 233 moorings. Port du Crouton, 390 moorings. Port de l'Olivette, situated in the sheltered cove of the same name. This is a harbor for sailors and their wooden fishing boats who enjoy the old marine, Provençal traditions. Theatre and music. The Théâtre Antibes, Théâtre des Heures Blues and Café Théâtre La Seine-sur-Mer all offer a variety of performances from orchestra music to dramatic plays. Music of all types, from live jazz to DJs spinning techno, can be found in the bars and nightclubs, and there are a number of festivals and special outdoor concerts during the summer. Jazz is still the speciality around here, and the Juan Les Pins Jazz Festival is one of the best in the world. M83 hails from Antibes. Festivals. Antibes and Juan Les Pins host a number of festivals, mainly during the summer months. There's not much in the way of traditional cultural festivals in Antibes. Most of the festivals focus on music and contemporary activities. Jazz One remains one of the top jazz festivals in the world. Since its inception in 1960, it has attracted many famous jazz artists each year to play outdoors. Antibes Yacht Show. The Antique Show of Antibes attracts thousands of collectors for 2 weeks in April. It's one of the largest shows of its kind in France. Voyalist Antibes is one of the world's biggest gatherings of old teak and brass sailing vessels. They converge on the port for one of the most regal regattas in the Mediterranean. The Festival of St. Peter is the annual celebration of the patron saint of fishermen. A colorful procession through the town is followed by all the local fishermen adorning their boats and floating along the coast. The Festival of Sacred Music takes place in Antibes Cathedral, which has renowned acoustics. Sacred music is the theme of this popular festival, which attracts huge crowds each year. Shopping. March 8. Provençal. Transport. The Gare d'Antibes is the railway station serving the town, offering connections to Nice, Cannes, Marseille, Paris and several other destinations. The railway station is in the center of town. The nearest airport is Nice Côte d'Azur Airport. Personalities. Flock and Rasputin, polar bears living at Marineland. Graham Greene lived in a small apartment in Antibes in his later years. Gloria Guinness, then Princess Fekri, married Thomas Lowell Guinness in April 1951. Nikos Kazantakis, writer of the novels Orba the Greek, owned a villa in Old Town. M83, electronic band. Gerald and Sarah Murphy, wealthy Americans credited with establishing the French Riviera as a summer resort. Guillaume Musso, writer. Pablo Picasso, painter. Gabriel Gebrekian, architect. Halima Susi, basketball player. Nicolas de Stael, painter. Luke Arthur Vebo, basketball player. Duke of Windsor. Aristotle Onassis and Stavros Niarchos, at different times, lived in Chateau de la Croix. International relations. Twin towns. Sister cities. Antibes is twinned with